So guys, welcome back to the channel and to our weekly championship score predictions. Coming up this weekend, we've got a big weekend of football. As you can see to the side of me, that is how the championship table is currently lining up with 6 games to go. We had the news earlier on this week of the news about Wigan going into administration. That technically leaves them on minus 12 points for this season, so they've got ground to make up on everyone else. As always, all this weekend's fixtures will be in the description down below so that you guys can go ahead and make your score predictions, and should you get any of them right, your comment will be included next time. And speaking of your comments, I will include them on screen now if any of you guys did successfully manage to get any of your midweek scorelines correct. And fair play to you, we had some pretty unpredictable ones going on in midweek. It was a bit all over the place, wasn't it? We'll be discussing those games throughout today's video. If you're going to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. But without any further ado, let's hop into these games. So starting things out with tonight's game, which sees Charlton going up against Millwall. It's been an interesting restart for both sides. Charlton have been flying. They picked up 7 points from their first 3 games back. Millwall, on the other hand, it's taken them a bit of time to get going. They've just picked up 2 points so far, 2 back-to-back draws against Swansea and Barnsley in their previous matches. Now, the game against Swansea, I thought they maybe got a little bit unlucky not to win. They created a lot more chances in that one. They were quite similar for the Barnsley match as well, really, but it's just not quite fallen for them. They're 4 points off the top 6. If they do want to start closing that gap, it's games like this where they need to be picking up all 3 points. There's just been one too many draws so far this season in there for Millwall. They've only lost 10 matches. No side outside the top 6 has lost fewer matches than Millwall, but they've had 17 draws this season. Before recording today's video, I looked into the history between these two. Charlton haven't actually beaten Millwall since 1996, so they're going to look to put an end to that run here today. But at the Valley, Charlton, I think they'll put up a good fight for this one, and with Millwall having the tendency to draw a lot of matches, I wouldn't be all too surprised to see this one heading in a similar direction. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for this game. FIFA saying 1-0 Charlton. I thought that Charlton got a decent point last time against Cardiff. I think this one may head in a similar path. I'm going to go 1-1. And then next up we have the big one of the weekend, Derby going up against Nottingham Forest. This could be an absolute, it should be a really feisty match. Both sides winning in midweek, both 1-0, both thanks to free kicks, obviously. Derby came out on top against Preston at Deepdale. Wayne Rooney scoring the only goal of the game, nice free kick from him. Forest the same in their game against Bristol City, Thiago Silva with a really nicely taken free kick, 1-0 win for them. Now, we all know Derby the most informed side in the league at the moment. They're on an absolute roll. I think they've got a great balance in their side at the moment, and I've got to say I was really impressed with them when they came to Deepdale. First off, especially, I thought they were playing some excellent football in transition, moving the ball from defence to attack. They're seamlessly good throughout the midfield. Sibley, Bird and Rooney have got a brilliant connection between them. Obviously, Tom Lawrence is still going to be missed for them, but Derby have got a lot of threats coming from all over the pitch. Now, what's interesting is the last 4 meetings between these two sides, there's been 1 or less goals in all of them in their last 4 meetings in the Championship. The reverse fixture early on this season, Forest did come out on top of the City ground. It was the Jayden Bogle mistake which led to the Lewis Grobban goal, but since then this Derby side is pretty much unrecognisable. I mean, if Derby go ahead and make it into the top 6 this season, it would be a ridiculous transition from the start of the season. On Boxing Day, they were 18th in the league. Now they're just 1 point off the top 6. There's a lot riding on this one, and we all know Derby's fixture running for the rest of the season is ridiculously tough, but with the way they're playing at the moment, it's hard to see past them. Although one thing I give to Forest is that they seem to thrive in these high pressure games where it's make or break. This is where we've seen Forest step up countless times throughout the season so far. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a cracker of a match. For a score prediction, I'm edging ever so slightly towards Derby for this one. I'm going to go 1-0 Derby. I think that the first goal for this game is absolutely crucial. I think whoever scores first goes on to win this one. I really don't think there'll be many goals in this one. I think it will be quite a tight one. I'm saying 1-0 Derby. FIFA's going 1-1. It should be a massive game. Next up, we then got Blackburn going up against Leeds. Both sides being quite frustrated in midweek, actually. Blackburn missed another opportunity to close the gap on the top 6, losing against Barnsley. Leeds, on the other hand, that 1-1 draw with Luton. It wasn't a loss, but it was frustrating nonetheless with the amount of chances Leeds created. Luton set up quite defensively, quite compact for that one, but played well on the counter-attack. We all know the chances they went on to miss, you know, the likes of Bamford and Costa. I'm interested to see if Bielsa actually persists with those two and they keep their place in the starting 11, or he looks to rejig it a little bit. I wouldn't be all surprised to see maybe Costa drop into the bench. Bamford, I'm assuming, is just a guaranteed start for the rest of the season, really. Leeds do have a couple of injury doubts coming into this one, though. Liam Cooper and Stuart Dallas, I believe, both haven't been 100%, and they haven't been training with Leeds throughout the week, but we'll see what the news is on them later on today. And it does feel a bit for Blackburn like it's now or never if they are going to make that push towards the top 6, because it is ever so slightly slipping away from them. You know, 4 points, it could be as many as 7 by the end of this weekend, and by that point with 5 games to go, it's just too much then, isn't it? With the way both sides are going at the moment though, I do just fancy Leeds for this one. I think away from home, I'm going to go 2-1 Leeds in this game. FIFA's going to agree with me. Big game for Leeds in their season. Brentford don't seem to be slowing down anytime soon, but I think they may just edge this one. And speaking of Brentford, they're going up against Wigan next up. Now, we all know the news about Wigan this week and going into administration. Technically, they're going to be deducted, you know, 12 points this season should they not finish inside the bottom 3. So that means that realistically, they're 6 points off safety at this point in time. Now, I think the players will react well to this. I don't think that the players are going to pack it in or anything like that. I think they've got a good group of professionals in there. Wigan, I mean, looking at the run they've been on lately, they've not conceded a goal in over 900 minutes of football. 7 consecutive clean sheets that Wigan have kept in this championship, which is absolutely staggering considering how competitive this league is. This Brentford side, though, is going to be a real test of that defensive record because they've been absolutely sparkling lately. You know, they put 3 goals past Reading in midweek. They dispatched them comfortably, and Bimu was back in the starting 11, and when they are really, you know, firing on all cylinders, Brentford are probably the toughest side in the league to contain. Wigan's season though, and whether they survive or not, it's not based off this game. Their next 4 fixtures after this are pivotal though. Wigan face QPR, Barnsley, Hull and Charlton. All those games are massive, but it starts here, and boy, it doesn't get much tougher away at Griffin Park at the moment. For a score prediction, I'm just edging Brentford. You know, Wigan are more than capable of pulling off an upset, and who's to say they won't with this ridiculous run they're on at the moment, but Brentford just seems to be on a different wavelength at the moment. I'm going to go 1-0 Brentford. I really don't think there'll be much in it. FIFA's saying 0-0. And then we've got Bristol City going up against Cardiff. Now, the race of the top 6, the 2 most informed sides at the moment are Cardiff and Derby. That 6th spot at this time seems like it's between those 2. Both of them have got a tricky run-in though, and this one's an interesting one. Bristol City at the moment, I feel like the tide's turning a little bit with Bristol City fans and their patience with Lee Johnson. There's been talk about him leaving at the end of the season. With the way they're going at the moment, I know it's technically still possible that they can get into the top 6, but I think that everyone's accepted but that it won't be Bristol City. You know, they're 6 points off it at the moment. Their run of form before and after lockdown has been pretty awful. You know, it was another loss in midweek where I thought they were a bit better against Nottingham Forest, to be completely honest. Obviously, Thiago Silva scored that free kick and then Ashley Williams just loses his head stupidly and gets sent off. You know, they may have gone on to equalise should that have not happened, but I feel like they need a result somewhere. Against this Cardiff side, it's not going to be an easy one though. Defensively, been very impressed by Cardiff recently. I think that Morrison and Nelson have an excellent partnership between them. Against Preston, I was really impressed by the 2. They kept another clean sheet in the game of midweek against Charlton. They were just lacking that cutting edge going forward. I'm going to go, I fancy maybe Bristol City to get a point from this one. I feel like they need something out of somewhere to just salvage their season and at least have a respectable end to it. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I feel like Lee Johnson needs to get a reaction out of these players sooner rather than later, but if he doesn't manage to do that, then Cardiff could walk all over them. I'm going to go 1-1. FIFA's going to say 2-0 Bristol City. Next, we then got Fulham going up against Birmingham. Fulham getting back to winning ways in midweek after back-to-back losses since lockdown. They beat QPR by 2-1 without Mitra as well. I thought they had some decent spells in that game against QPR, scored 2 nice long-ranging efforts. Up against this Birmingham side who have been a bit all over the place since football resumed, really. They had that gritty 0-0 draw to start things out with against West Brom. Then they had the bonkers 3-3 draw with Hull, and then in midweek they just fell apart against Huddersfield and lost that one 3-0. So I'm not really sure where Birmingham's levels are at. We spoke about it before the restart, how Birmingham would actually come into the rest of the season knowing that Pep Clotter's not going to be there at the end of the season. They've not really got anything to play for either, being stuck in mid-table. And so I don't really know what to expect from Birmingham for this one, whether there's going to be that reaction from the players to get back into it or whether they're that bothered really for the rest of it. It's an interesting one. The news about Jude Bellingham's continuing to go around. It seems like it's pretty much a done deal between Dortmund and Birmingham for that move. So with that news, I'm interested to see how much he features for the rest of the season with Birmingham. But for this one, with Fulham having still it all to play for, despite not having Mitra, I think they'll just have too much going forward for Birmingham in this one. I'm going to go 2-1 Fulham, although they can be partial to slipping up in the game like this every now and again. But I am going to go 2-1 Fulham. FIFA's going to say 1-0 Fulham. Next up, we then got Huddersfield going up against North End. Now, Preston are on the worst run of form in the Championship if we look back at the last 6 games. After Hull picked up all 3 points in midweek, Preston have only picked up 1 point from our last 6 matches, and something needs to change sooner rather than later. With North End in midweek against Derby, it was another frustrating match. Alex Neil tried to tinker with things. We made 5 changes. It didn't work. We were playing Nugent up front. He was so isolated for the game, didn't get any support around him, and our attacking threat was so limited, as it has been in our last few matches really. And this feeling towards the end of the season's all but too familiar for Preston. The exact same thing happened last season. We were within touching distance of the top 6, and then we won one of our last 8 matches and ultimately finished 14th. The same thing's going to happen this season if we don't pull our finger out. I think that someone like Josh Harrop needs to be starting for this game. We need his creativity, especially in the absence of DJ if he's injured still. The only real person that put in a proper performance against Derby for me was Brad Potts. I think he put a decent shift in. Apart from that, we were poor all over the pitch really. Paul Huntington will be serving a 3-game suspension after that stamp in the Derby match. Not going to be a massive miss. I think we all saw it coming really. And it's not going to be an easy game against this Huddersfield side either. They did pick up their first win after lockdown in midweek. They put 3 goals past Birmingham. Colin Grant, Fraser Campbell and Kachunga all getting on the score sheet. And to be honest, with the way Preston are going at the moment, I think that Huddersfield may pick up back-to-back wins in this one. Alex Neil needs to find the formula for us to win again, because at the moment, we're just so limited going forward. I'm going to go 2-1 Huddersfield in this game and hope I'm proven wrong. FIFA saying 2-0 Preston. We need to find the formula somewhere. Next up, we then got Luton going up against Reading. Two sides in contrasting form since the restart. Reading not been great. In midweek, they were beaten 3-0 by, let's face it, it was a very good Brentford side, but apart from that, other games haven't really fallen their way either. They're going up against this Luton side who, if you would have offered any Luton fan 5 points against games against Preston, Swansea and Leeds, I'm sure all of them would have taken it. It is still, the job's far from done for Nathan Jones. I think he's got a good reaction out of these players, but they are 4 points off safety after that result from Hull in midweek. Looking at their next few fixtures though, they got games against Reading, Barnsley, Huddersfield, QPR and Hull, all which very winnable for the way that Luton are playing at the moment. And to be honest, I'm still none the wiser for who I think's going down, you know. Before the restart, I thought that Luton and Barnsley were pretty much certainties for going down, but each of them have reacted brilliantly since lockdown. The news about Wigan as well, that now adds them back into the mix. It really is a fascinating one. I think it's going to go down to the final day. For a score prediction with this one though, I'm going to go 2-0 Luton in this one. FIFA's going to go for a goalless draw. I think they may just edge it. Next up, we've got an absolutely huge game at the bottom of the Championship. Stoke going up against Barnsley. If Stoke lose this game, they'll be in a whole world of trouble. Currently only 2 points separates these two. Barnsley on 41, Stoke on 43, and they're in for a really tough game. You've got to say, Barnsley since the restart I've been really impressed by. They're yet to concede a goal actually, and since, you know, it's been one thing that we've hammered Barnsley about so far this season, you know, the defensive record, but lately they have been keeping things really tight. And Stoke, however, just look like they're collapsing this season, and it's shades of what we were seeing at the start of the season. There was one point around Christmas time where they seemed to have that revival of an upturn in form, but since lockdown they were awful. I mean, in midweek 3-0 against Wigan, the same basic defensive mistakes were creeping back into their game. Butland had a bit of a howler in that one as well. You feel like they almost can't afford to lose this one, but with the way both teams are going at the moment, I'm going to go 1-0 Barnsley in this game, and FIFA's going to go 1-0 Stoke, but I just can't be backing them at the moment with the way they're going. Next up, we've got Swansea going up against Sheffield Wednesday. Swansea, another one of those clubs who found themselves 4 points off the top 6 at the moment, needs to find 3 points out of somewhere sooner rather than later if they are going to make that last-ditch push. What's going to hold Swansea back for the rest of the season, though, is defensive injuries. They are looking quite light at the back now. Ben Wilmot has been confirmed as out for the rest of the season, as has Joe Rodon as well, so how they reconfigure that back line without the pair of them for the rest of the season, I'm not so sure. The game against Millwall, it was a moment of quality from Ryan Brewster to get them back into the game. That free kick really well taken, obviously then came back off Bilkowski and went in, but apart from that, it's just the speed at which Swansea are playing at over these last couple of games, it's just not quite the same intensity to which that Middlesbrough game had. You know, they were flying forward on the counter-attack, creating loads of chances. The last couple, they just seem to be playing with the handbrake on a little bit. Going up against the Sheffield Wednesday side, who did lose in midweek against West Brom, it was 3-0, although it didn't really seem like it had the feel of a 3-0 game. They had a couple of chances to get back into it, and the penalty that Odebaggio gave away, another one. You felt like that was the turning point in the game, and then from then on, obviously in the second half, West Brom just had that extra quality going forward. I don't see much being in this one though. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, and FIFA's going to agree with me. I think it might end up being another quite frustrating one for Swansea this game. And then we got Middlesbrough going up against QPR. Neil Warnock losing his first game in charge of Borough in midweek. Hull 2-1, Hull scoring in the last minute. Over the whole flow of the game, I mean, it wasn't a great watch, let's be honest, but I'd probably say that if anyone edged it, maybe it was Middlesbrough, and they probably did get a little bit unlucky to lose it in at the end, but just lost their concentration a little bit. Obviously, Sam Malonga gave them the lead, Herbie Kane got Hull back into it, and then Malik Wilkes scoring late on. With everyone else around the bottom of the Championship, though, continuing to pick up points, this feels like a bit of a must-win for Borough, and they are going up against a QPR side who have been really quite poor, actually, since lockdown. They've lost all 3 matches. In midweek, though, I did think we saw an improvement from QPR. That game against Fulham, they got maybe a little little bit unlucky themselves to lose that game. It was, you know, a massive improvement of the previous few fixtures we've seen of QPR, but you feel like Borough need this more. I think they may just scrap this one out. I'm going to go 2-1 Middlesbrough in this game, with Thief saying it'll be 1-0 QPR. And then to round things off, we got West Brom going up against Hull the last game on Sunday. West Brom, I feel like it was a bit of a confidence booster. Their 3-0 win over Wednesday midweek. Pereira getting 2 goals for that one, obviously Charlie Austin from the penalty spot as well. This Hull squad, not down and out like I thought they were. You know, I was questioning whether they'd win another match this season, but massive 3 points against Borough in midweek. Malik Wilkes being quite instrumental for that one. He won the free kick for the Herbie Kane goal, who I believe is out injured for this one. That's going to be quite the blow for Hull, but Wilkes obviously then went ahead and scored the winner for them, and he's actually recently signed on a permanent deal for them. Not the finished article, but definitely still offers them something going forward, a bit of spark here and there. He's a bit rough around the edges, but the responsibility of, you know, staying up is going to fall on shoulders like Wilkes for the rest of the season. For this one though, with Hull having a few players out injured, and with West Brom seemingly getting their mojo back against Sheff Wednesday, I think a lot of people will just be fancying West Brom for this one. I think they may put them to the sword. Pereira back on form. Hull's season and whether they stay up or not isn't really going to be determined by an away trip to the Hawthorns, is it? I'm going to go 3-0 West Brom for this game. Although Hull did get back to winning ways, I still think they're very shaky at the back, as has been seen in recent matches. I'm going to go 3-0 West Brom. Thief's going to say 2-0 Hull. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. So if all of my score predictions do come true this weekend, then that is how the Championship table will be lining up come the end of the weekend. So we'll be seeing Derby hop into the top 6, and the bottom 3 will be made up by Luton, Stoke and Barnsley. We've got a very interesting weekend coming up indeed. But other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to get your score predictions in for a chance to be involved in the next video. Make sure to leave a like if you want to enjoy, and please do subscribe for some regular Championship content. But other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.